Discover the amazing moment a black woman sacrificed her train. It revealed a transformative, sir. Maya's heart raced as she navigated the packed L train, gripping the metal pole like a lifeline. Commuters jostled around her, faces buried in phones, eyes glazed over by the monotony of daily life. She was just another body squeezing into the cacophony of Chicago, but beneath the surface, she fought unseen battles. Despite her innovative designs as an engineer, she felt the dismissive weight of her colleagues' glances, the whispers trailing her through the office like a dark shroud. Each morning she donned her armor-pressed blazer, meticulous hair hoping to break the chains of their prejudice. But each day, every glance of disregard felt like a reminder that her brilliance was often relegated to the shadows. As the train jolted forward, pain pierced her chest with memories of her mother's frail body, reminding her of the responsibilities weighing down her dreams. What if today's the day I get overlooked again? She thought. A promotion had never felt so close yet so out of reach, a beacon flickering in the fog of her reality. The thought made her stomach twist uncomfortably. The stakes felt impossibly high, her ambitions constantly battling against the obligation to care for her family. Before she could sink deeper into this spiral, a sudden scream shattered her thoughts. Instinctively, she turned to the window just in time to witness a man sprawled on the tracks. Her pulse quickened, the flashing lights of the oncoming train cast shadows on his helpless form. Every second felt like an eternity, and in that crucial moment, her future flashed before her eyes. If I don't get to that meeting, the idea of missing it churned in her gut. A gut-wrenching decision flickered to life. Against the backdrop of silence and chaos, a choice lay before her, shimmering with urgency: help the man or chase her corporate dreams. Her mind raced as she crouched down, her heart caught between ambition and empathy. Without hesitation, she leaped off the train, her ambitions drifting behind her in the rhythmic clatter of trains. "Are you okay?" she panted, kneeling beside the man, Frank, who had once designed bridges and buildings that breathed life into the cityscape she loved. His eyes flickered with gratitude and pain. With each story he shared, Maya felt the light of her childhood dreams reigniting. But with their bond, the weight of responsibility reemerged. She thought of her mother, of the sacrifices her family had made so she could pursue her passion. How can I choose between my career and my family? She felt torn into pieces, her dreams glanced at but never fully realized. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as she began to find her footing, her world jolted again. Rumors of a corporate scandal surfaced, one that threatened to ruin the project she had poured so much of herself into. The whispers around the office turned darker, a storm brewing as other colleagues closed ranks, leaving her teetering on a precipice of uncertainty. Anguish gripped her heart as she thought of the sacrifices made for her success. How could she allow it to be torn apart by deceit? Maya stood at a crossroads. She could harness Frank's wisdom, confront the wrongs she saw, or retreat back into the shadows. Each choice felt like a tug-of-war within her spirit. With every nerve screaming for justice, a question loomed over her: would she have the courage to speak out when it mattered most, or would she retreat once more into the silence of others' choices? In the silence of her thoughts, tension thickened, waiting for an answer that could change everything. Maya's heart echoed with uncertainty as she watched the train pull away, leaving her behind with Frank, who was still recovering from the shock of the moment. The city hummed around them, a loud reminder of her precarious situation, but her mind was clouded by the whirlwind of thoughts revolving around the office and the imminent corporate scandal. She could almost feel the sharp whispers of disbelief clawing at her back, yet here, beside Frank, she realized she could no longer remain a passive observer in her life. "What should I do?" she murmured to Frank, her voice trembling slightly as she shared her internal conflict. He looked at her with wise eyes, reflecting the weight of his experiences. Sometimes the hardest choices pave the way for growth, he replied, his tone steady. You've got to decide if you want to fight for what's right or keep playing it safe. His words ignited something inside her, a flicker of clarity in the haze of doubt. A wave of determination washed over her as she remembered the countless hours she had spent perfecting her designs, the late nights spent calculating stress loads and reworking drafts to impress supervisors who would never see her. She was an engineer, a trailblazer in her field, and she refused to let her hard work crumble under the weight of others' greed. Maya straightened, her thoughts crystallizing into action. The thought of confronting the allegations took shape in her mind, growing stronger with her resolve. But she also recognized the stakes. Failure wasn't just a personal setback but a possible disaster for her team and the integrity of her work. The potential promotion that danced on the horizon felt like a mirage, and she could not afford to let it slip away. Minutes later, after helping Frank onto his feet, she exchanged numbers with him, a lifeline she hadn't anticipated. "Let us keep in touch," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. She nodded, feeling an unseen bond forming a mutual connection beneath the bustling city. The train station felt different when she boarded the next train. The weight of uncertainty still pressed upon her, but it was intermingled with a spark of possibility. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels beneath her transformed into a propulsive force, propelling her toward her decisions. The more she thought about the scandal, the more she strategized a plan. Maybe she could align with colleagues from her department who shared her vision for integrity. Perhaps the whispers that had once felt suffocating would rally into a chorus of support. As she exited the train, her phone buzzed with a message from a colleague she had initially mistrusted. "We need to talk. About the project. Urgent." A jolting mix of fear and hope surged through her, heightening her awareness of the situation's gravity. Was this her chance to confront the brewing storm, or merely another trap set to lure her into silence? Taking a deep breath, Maya pushed through the crowd, her thoughts sharpening as she grappled with the urgency of her situation. The office loomed ahead, an arena where battles were fought and won not just through designs, but through courage, conviction, and the unwillingness to remain voiceless. And as she ventured into the heart of that chaotic space, a question reverberated in her mind, a call to action. Would she seize this moment to fight back, or allow the shadows of doubt to consume her once and for all? The moment of reckoning had arrived. It was time to step into her truth and confront the chaos that awaited. Maya's pulse quickened as she pushed against the buzzing tide of her colleagues in the lobby. The message from her colleague, the urgency attached to it, throbbed in her mind. What did they want to discuss? What could they possibly know? Determined not to succumb to anxiety, she straightened her shoulders and entered the elevator, carrying the weight of her mission like armor. The hum of the machinery seemed amplified in the confined space, mirroring her own heart racing with fervor. The elevator doors opened to her floor, and with a deep breath, she stepped into the fray, intuitive instincts kicking in as she sensed the varying energies of those around her. Colleagues exchanged quick glances, whispering, their faces drawn and imbued with tension. Something was brewing, and Maya couldn't shake the feeling that it tied directly to her. "Hey, Maya!" a colleague called, pulling her aside. It was Lisa, a longtime teammate whose insights usually veered toward the pessimistic. "You heard about the meeting, right?" Her throat tightened. "What meeting?" "The execs are discussing the allegations. They're coming down hard on everyone involved." Lisa's voice was barely above a whisper, and her gaze darted around as if the walls were listening. Maya's thoughts raced. This was it, she had to act. The allegations could turn into a wildfire if left unchecked, and now more than ever, every ounce of her training glimmered in her mind, not just the technical skills but also the leadership traits she had honed over the years. She could be the voice that not only defends her work but also advocates for the truth. "Let us gather the team," Maya proposed, wrestling with her apprehension. "We can share our thoughts, strategize a united front." Lisa looked uncertain, her face reflecting the doubt which had plagued Maya since she stepped onto that train. "What if it backfires? What if we get pulled into the mess?" "Then we'll confront it head on," Maya replied, surprised by the conviction in her voice. Let them know we're not afraid. With a nod, Lisa pulled out her phone and slid through her contact list, voicing a small encouragement as she reached out to others. The room felt charged, a collective breath drawn tight before a leap. Maya focused her thoughts, collating her experiences, her knowledge, and her aspirations. This was her moment to cultivate respect within her field, to redefine what it meant to lead with integrity. As words rallied through emails and texts, Maya settled into a quiet corner of the office, steeling herself for what was ahead. She closed her eyes, envisioning herself presenting not only the designs they'd worked on but also a manifesto of their ethics. New paths extended before her, each filled with potential victories and fierce challenges. The walls of the office no longer felt claustrophobic but monumental, remnants of her struggles transforming into stepping stones. Armed with her calculated resolve, Maya prepared herself for the inevitable confrontation with the higher-ups, the looming specter of the scandal waiting to unveil its ugly face. But just as Maya was about to immerse herself in her thoughts, her phone buzzed again. A messaging app notification from Frank lit up the screen. "I'm in your corner. If you decide to go public, I'll support you. But be careful, Maya. This isn't just about you." A shiver of fear curled through her, mingling with the heady thrill of possibility. She wasn't alone in this, but the stakes were rising. Her next choices could redefine not just her career but her very identity. Would her ambition lead to triumph or downfall? The clock ticked loudly in her ears, a reminder that time was slipping through her fingers. It was almost time for the meeting. Did she dare expose her vulnerabilities, her truths to the world watching? The road ahead unfurled like a tightrope above a chasm. A ripple of determination surged within her. Even if the ground beneath her felt unstable, she would not falter. The moment had come to turn courage into action, and as she gathered her thoughts for the upcoming confrontation, a haunting realization dawned on her. The true danger wasn't just the scandal that loomed, but the poison of inaction that could seep into the very fabric of her being. Was she ready to face it head on, to root out corruption and reclaim her narrative, or would she cling to silence as a shield? The meeting waited, charged with uncertainty, while the shadows lingered just out of sight, twisting around her reality. Maya stepped into the conference room, her heart drumming a chaotic beat. The air was thick with unspoken fears, and flickering light from fluorescent bulbs overhead threw stark shadows across the faces of her colleagues seated around the polished table. A weak smile here and there, but their eyes reflected uncertainty, mirroring her own internal conflict. She was conscious of the weight of her role. She knew every ounce of her resolve would now be tested under the scrutiny of the executives. As she took her place at the front, she mentally rehearsed her strategy. This was no longer just about her designs or the project at hand. It was about standing up against an environment that could crush integrity under its heels. The board members filed into the room, their expressions carved with seriousness, defined by the world of numbers and projections. Maya's throat tightened once more, but the breath she took was deep and grounding. It was time to activate her voice as an agent of change. "Thank you all for coming," the lead executive began, his voice sharp and businesslike. As he laid out the agenda, Maya checked her notes, her fingers rubbing the corners of the documents as if they would provide her extra strength. The conversation quickly turned contentious, accusations flying like unhinged arrows. Maya's colleagues squirmed as defense mechanisms kicked in: denial, anger, fear. She couldn't help but notice Lisa's face turning pale. Just as the whirlwind of chaos seemed insurmountable, it was as if a quiet clarity descended upon her. This moment was pivotal, not merely for her colleagues, but for her own trajectory. When the noise peaked with speculative gossip, Maya raised her hand firmly. "If I may," she interrupted, her voice unexpectedly steady. Eyes turned to her, a mix of surprise and skepticism painted along the room. "What we are facing is a misunderstanding, not just a scandal," Maya asserted, leaning forward, hands resting on the table for support. "As a team, we've worked hard, and these projects have always been built on ethical foundations. It's crucial we clarify any misconceptions rather than allow them to fester and grow." The lead executive's brows furrowed, but Maya pressed on, sensing the moment swell around her. I believe it's crucial we communicate our commitment to transparency and integrity. I propose we organize a thorough review of our processes, let the data, the facts, speak for themselves. The air stilled. Conversation slowed, and for a fleeting second, Maya found connection in every pair of eyes that turned her way. She felt the courage rush in her veins like wildfire. It ignited determination within her mind. This moment was not merely for the sake of the project but for the opportunity to elevate herself, affirming her role as a leader among her peers. As the discussions shifted in her direction, Maya realized she was not just advocating for the projects, but recalibrating her own identity. She drew upon everything she had learned: strategies, ethics, her intrinsic belief in doing what was right. As she spoke, memories of past struggles flashed before her, those moments that shaped her into who she was today. She could hear her mentor's voice urging her to embrace her strength. She remembered every late night and every setback that had ultimately enlightened her vision. The weight gradually lifted. She wasn't just defending a team, she was reclaiming her worth and expertise. Afterward, as conversations began to calm and the executives acknowledged her suggestions, Maya felt a spark inside. The ambiguity of her future melted, replaced by a clearer path filled with potential. She had transformed not through the avoidance of conflicts, but through confronting them. Yet as she exited the room, the lingering unease of unresolved tensions wrapped tightly around her. She understood this was merely the beginning of a larger struggle, a battle for not just her position, but her life's direction. Would the very same colleagues support her as they moved forward? And more crucially, how would she navigate the repercussions if the spotlight flickered back toward her after presenting herself as a beacon of integrity? The questions haunted her, and her heart quickened once more. Each step along the corridor felt heavier with the weight of the unknown. But one thing was clearer than ever: the moment to discover her profound strength was just unfolding, and she was ready to meet whatever challenge awaited her. With fresh determination swelling within her, Maya stepped out of the building, drawn forward by an irresistible pull toward the next step on her journey, where the true essence of her character would be cast into the flame of future revelations. The following morning, Maya awoke before dawn, the sky still shrouded in darkness. Each minute dragged, the stillness taunting her with the weight of her choices. Questions echoed in her mind, relentless. How would her colleagues react to her newfound assertiveness? Would they view her as a disruptor or a leader? As she prepared for the day, her hands trembled slightly, a physical manifestation of her inner turmoil. The flickering of her resolve from yesterday was now a flickering candle, vulnerable to the winds of doubt. At the office, whispers poured through the air like a tense symphony. Colleagues exchanged glances, the atmosphere thick with speculation about her bold proposition in the meeting. Maya grabbed her morning coffee and steeled herself for the day ahead. She could sense the eyes upon her, dissecting her every move. Stepping into the main workspace, she noticed Lisa, her earlier panic transformed into a cautious curiosity. Maya took a deep breath. She needed to connect with her teammates, to dispel the undercurrent of unease. "Hey, can we talk?" Maya approached Lisa, who looked surprised but nodded. In the corner of the bustling office, they found a quieter space. Maya began, "I know yesterday stirred things up, but I believe we can turn this into a positive." Her voice was steadier than she felt, each word crafted from conviction rather than certainty. Lisa bit her lip, her brows drawn together. "I get that you want to help, but don't you think there's a risk to how we move forward after that meeting? People are still on edge." Maya captured the moment in her mind. This was her opportunity to lean deeper into her belief in collective strength. "I understand, but change often comes with discomfort. We can't let fear dictate our paths. If we support each other, we'll make it through this." Lisa's eyes narrowed as she considered Maya's words. "You're really willing to challenge the board again?" "Absolutely," Maya asserted, her voice gaining momentum. "We have the chance to redefine our narrative. Instead of hiding, let us embrace the opportunity to show our integrity. I want us to work together, our skills, our insights, everything. If we commit to full transparency, we can navigate through the scrutiny." The tension eased ever so slightly on Lisa's face. "All right, I'm in. but we need to band together and prepare for anything that comes our way. It won't be easy. Maya nodded, relief flooding her. The moment was cathartic, as if a barrier had momentarily broken. Each shared sentiment compelled them forward with a collective sense of purpose, yet Maya felt a deeper itch, a question of her own personal stakes. As the hours ticked away, Maya channeled her energy into productively reshaping a document for the upcoming review. The work was illuminating. It shed light on the cracks within their processes. With every keystroke, she uncovered weaknesses that needed addressing. This led to a breakthrough. If they could compile strengths and weaknesses transparently, it would not only serve the team but solidify their mutual trust. Yet, despite her newfound clarity, a shadow loomed in the back of her mind. The looming possibilities of retaliation weighed heavily. What would the executives say when they examined their findings? Would they close ranks to protect their reputation, or would they acknowledge the department's commitment to improvement? As the day dragged into the afternoon, the gears of Maya's mind churned faster. Each decision she made felt less about herself, and more about how it shaped her environment. She was not merely paving her road of leadership, she was sculpting the very culture around her. But as she finalized the document, a sudden ping from her phone jolted her attention. It was an invitation to an informal feedback session with the executives. Her heart raced, uncertain if this was a chance or a hazard. Did they wish to discuss her proposal, or were they laying a trap? With the weight of the unknown pressing down, she suddenly felt the urgency of preparation. The time had come to face not only the executives but the deepening complexity of her professional aspirations and the reality of the role she stepped into. Maya took a steadying breath, her determination rising within her. She was no longer just speaking for the team. She was standing at the precipice of her own evolution. Would she lean into this opportunity and define her legacy, or succumb to the pressures drawing her back? The implication of her next move loomed overhead. It was time for answers, and she would not walk away. Maya's heart pounded as she entered the glass-walled conference room, the inviting openness contrasting sharply with the tension radiating from within her. This was not just a meeting. It was the defining moment that could either cement her place as a leader or cast her into a shadow of opposition. The executives were seated around a polished table, their expressions inscrutable. Each one of them had a reputation upheld by decades of experience, and an unwillingness to embrace disruptive ideas. Taking her seat, Maya scanned the faces, searching for any hint of encouragement. Instead, her confident facade felt tenuous against the weight of the scrutiny she anticipated. Today is the day, she whispered to herself, a mantra to settle her nerves. As the conversation transitioned to her proposal, Maya subtly shifted from trepidation to resolve. "Thank you all for this opportunity," she began, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. "I believe our department has an important chance for growth and transparency. We need to confront the issues directly rather than sweep them under the rug." The words flowed from her like a river carving a new path through unyielding rock. Reactionary silence hung in the air as she began outlining the weaknesses she had discovered. With each point she raised, she observed furrowed brows and narrowed eyes among the executives. Would they dismiss her as a naive challenger? Her mind flashed momentarily to Lisa's worried face, a distinct reminder of the risks shared in unity. A flicker of uncertainty washed over her as she noticed the CEO, Mr. Harrison, leaning back in his chair, an unyielding countenance of authority. "Maya, I appreciate your passion," he interjected, breaking into her rhythm. "But don't you think this approach might be overly ambitious? We have protocols for a reason." "Ambition is necessary for evolution," she replied, the steel in her voice surprising even her. "If we stick to outdated methods simply because they're safe, we stagnate. I'm not asking for radical change without consideration. I am asking for us to evaluate where we can improve." Maya's words hung momentarily in the air before being drowned out by the surrounding executives reluctantly murmuring their agreement amongst themselves. In that fleeting moment, she felt a swell of pride. It felt as though she had ignited sparks of contemplation in a place where only tradition reigns. Yet doubt nagged at her. Was she actually making progress, or merely eliciting the executive's contempt? The uncertainty of their response hung heavy around her as they deliberated. She bit her lip, every inch of her being wanting to leap from the table and retreat into the safety of her previous role. It was a seductive thought, but deep inside, she knew that retreat was no longer an option. "Let us proceed cautiously, shall we?" Mr. Harrison concluded, his tone dismissive but not entirely unkind. "We will consider your findings, but we cannot promise implementation." The disappointment coursed through her like a chill. Yet, the glimmer of opportunity still flickered in her heart. Perhaps this sentiment was only the beginning. Perhaps pushing forward, even in the face of letdowns, was all part of the struggle of leadership. As she exited the room, Maya felt a strange sense of clarity. While she hadn't received the embrace of total approval, she had played her part in voicing essential concerns. And even more important, she had chosen to be visible, to plant the seeds of change, knowing that nothing might flourish without first shattering the soil. Stepping out into the bustling office, Maya caught sight of Lisa, who rushed over, concern etched on her face. "How did it go?" Maya paused, reflecting on her encounter. Every moment, every battle etched her identity deeper into the fabric of the company. "We live to fight another day," she replied, her smile holding a hint of defiant determination. But the battle was far from over, and with each interaction, she knew vulnerabilities lingered in the shadows of corporate hallways, waiting to be acknowledged. What would the next challenge entail? Each move she made could either strengthen her resolve or expose her to deeper vulnerabilities. With the unsteady ground beneath her, Maya felt the pull of an inevitable confrontation on the horizon. One she had to prepare for if she was to navigate her evolving leadership without losing herself entirely. For it appeared that not only her professional ambitions were on the line, her true self was at stake. This duality whispered to her, urging her forward. What would happen when she could no longer separate her professional persona from her personal convictions? As that thought took root in her mind, the urgency to uncover this complex intersection consumed her. The stakes had never been higher, the truth awaited. Maya settled into her desk, her mind racing with a mixture of resolve and self-doubt. The conference room's glass walls seemed to loom over her, an omniscient reminder of her recent challenges. As the usual noise of the office faded into a soft background hum, Maya found herself questioning the very foundation of her ideals. Was her ambition outpacing her capability? Was her desire for transparency truly aligned with the expectations of her colleagues? Days turned into a seemingly endless cycle of meetings where her proposals were met with half-hearted nods and vague comments. Each rejection chipped away at her confidence, leaving her feeling as though she was shouting into a void. The struggle to maintain her conviction amidst the indifference of experienced executives tested her in ways she had never imagined. She had garnered some weak support from her colleague, Lisa, but that felt almost feeble against the might of the corporate bureaucracy. It was during a late afternoon, surrounded by documents and drawn-out reports, that Maya experienced a quiet moment of clarity. She finally acknowledged that her leadership trajectory was not just about pushing her plans through resistance. It needed to encompass her personal growth, her understanding of the machinations of power within the organization. She began to dissect the nuances of influence, how certain phrases or tones could rally support or pull the rug out from under her feet. That night, in a burst of creativity, Maya jotted down notes on her personal philosophy of leadership. Her thoughts flowed like ink, revealing a surprising realization. Her value was not confined to her proposals but intertwined with her ability to motivate those around her. That fragrance of determination and defiance had to emanate from her being, not just her ideas. The next week presented an unexpected opportunity. During an executive retreat focused on team dynamics, Maya found herself seated next to Mr. Harrison. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the room, she overheard discussions echoing her concerns about transparency. In that fleeting exchange, a spark ignited within her. Perhaps now was the moment to test her aspirations out loud in a less formal environment. "Mr. Harrison," she began, her voice steady, "I believe the company can leverage our talent more effectively through open discussions. What if we implemented feedback loops to facilitate continual improvement?" To her surprise, he didn't dismiss her out of hand. Instead, he leaned backward, considering her words. That might be an interesting angle, Maya. What do you think the main barriers would be? Suddenly, the vastness of his interest felt unnerving yet exhilarating. Was this the opening she had been waiting for? Clearing her throat, she delved into her thoughts, outlining potential challenges while showcasing her commitment. With each point, she felt the internal resistance dissipating. The fear of stepping into his sphere had been replaced by the adrenaline of confronting authority. Whether he realized it or not, as the conversation shifted and others chimed in with their opinions, Maya felt an unfamiliar exhilaration. She was engaging, influencing, and slowly unearthing the contours of power dynamics. The collective voice of the executives now resonated with her own. Consciously aligning her personal convictions with the organization's culture offered insight into how to navigate this corporate labyrinth. But at what cost? Driving home that night, thoughts tumbled inside her, merging excitement with dread. Had she compromised some of her ideals for the sake of acceptance? Even as possibilities danced on her horizon, a single question rooted deeper: would she be able to uphold her principles while maneuvering through the complicated layers of leadership? Determined to explore the delicate balance between personal integrity and corporate pragmatism, Maya knew the next step had to be calculated and intentional. She had lit a spark, but how would she nourish it without extinguishing her core beliefs? As she set her sights on the next challenge, ambivalence settled in. The stakes were rising, and she was about to step into uncharted territory, where her true convictions would either anchor her or leave her adrift. What awaited her at the intersection of ambition and authenticity? A confrontation loomed ahead, and it was becoming undeniably clear that she would have to face the consequences of becoming the leader she envisioned. Would she remain true to herself or compromise in a world that demanded much? Maya arrived at the office the next day determined to build on her recent breakthrough. The conversation with Mr. Harrison had ignited a flicker of hope. It had opened a door she hadn't realized existed. Yet, as she stepped into the familiarity of her workspace, doubt crept back in. Could she truly harness this moment to forge a path for her vision of leadership? Fueled by urgency, she immediately set out to distill her ideas into a compelling presentation for the executive team. As she sat at her desk, surrounded by untouched reports, she focused on crafting a narrative that balanced her ideals of transparency with the organization's ingrained culture. The juxtaposition stirred within her a clash of necessity and authenticity. Each sentence she typed felt like a step forward, yet she couldn't shake the nagging worry that the ties she was creating with the leadership team could bind her spirit to their expectations. Over the next few days, her preparation intensified. Every spare moment was devoted to refining her proposal. Conversations with colleagues became instructive sessions, as she actively listened to their feedback. Yet inside, she battled a persistent voice that questioned if she was altering her message to suit the crowd. The struggle was palpable. Maya understood that leadership required adaptability, but every adaptation felt like a notch on the belt of conformity. That Thursday morning, facing a room filled with executives, she felt the tension in her chest swell. As each member took their seat, Maya could see their skeptical expressions mirrored in the glass panels surrounding them. Was she about to present an idea destined to drown in their indifference? With a deep breath, she grounded herself, recalling the excitement of last week. This was her moment, marked by the kind of authenticity that had come alive during her conversation with Mr. Harrison. Maya began her presentation with an earnest story drawn from her experiences, the challenges she faced navigating corporate dynamics fueled by ambition, while striving for genuine engagement. With clarity, she spoke about the potential of feedback loops, laying out the mechanisms that could foster a climate of trust. As she spoke, she consciously avoided the overreaching jargon that often dulled such discussions, choosing instead to align her vision with the core values of collaboration and success that resonated within the room. To her amazement, after the initial skepticism, nods of agreement began to emerge among her audience. But as questions started to arise, focused yet skeptical, Maya realized she was entering a battleground where every response could either uplift or undermine her message. Mr. Harrison's inquisitive gaze locked onto her, and she felt both supported and scrutinized. One particularly challenging query came from Jacqueline, an executive known for her sharp tongue. Maya, how can we guarantee that these feedback loops won't just be another layer of complexity, leaving us more vulnerable to team conflicts rather than less? That question echoed in her mind, and for a split second, Maya hesitated, wondering if she should dilute her answer to appease Jacqueline's sentiments. Instead, she passed through the haze of uncertainty and leaned into the fire of the moment. Jacqueline, I believe vulnerability is an inherent part of honest conversations. Still, with well-structured feedback loops, we can foster a culture that prioritizes resolving conflicts rather than avoiding them. Let us embrace discomfort as a means to propelling us toward growth. The room fell silent, and Maya could feel the weight of every gaze upon her. Had she crossed an invisible line, that delicate boundary between confidence and overstepping? But rather than retracting, she pressed further, discussing practical examples of how successful organizations transformed their cultures through similar initiatives. As she detailed case studies, highlighting genuine shifts, she began to perceive an emerging consensus among the executives. They weren't just hearing her, they were connecting her ideas to their realm of possibility. As the presentation concluded, a mixture of relief and exhilaration flooded through her, but it was soon overshadowed by the looming uncertainty of how her proposal would be received. Would the old guard embrace this shift or resist it? The question lingered as she left the meeting, the weight of hope and anxiety intertwining. In that moment of duality, a thought crystallized. She was no longer just advocating for her sake, she was embodying a new paradigm. But as she left the room, a dilemma struck. Was she prepared to risk social capital among her peers for the sake of progress? The stakes had never felt higher, and now more than ever, she understood that navigating this chasm between ambition and authenticity wasn't merely a matter of professional strategy but a test of her moral fiber. As she prepared to face whatever consequences awaited her, Maya realized the next step demanded clarity and courage. Would she channel this promising shift into something robust enough to alter the corporate narrative for good? Or would she retreat into the shadows of fear? The answers loomed just ahead, and they would determine not only her career trajectory but her sense of self as well. Maya entered the office the following day with a sense of impending clarity. Her presentation had ignited a tiny flame within the larger corporate machinery, but now she faced the colder reality of what her proposal might invoke or provoke in her colleagues. Each step toward her desk felt like traversing a battlefield strewn with unvoiced opinions and veiled judgments. As she settled in, a glance at her inbox revealed a cascade of messages, but one stood out: an invitation from Mr. Harrison for a follow-up discussion. Excitement mingled with trepidation. This was her chance to underscore her commitment and vision, but would it also lay bare her vulnerabilities? Engaging further with him could solidify her standing within the upper echelons or fracture it beyond repair. Maya considered her next move. She needed more than just a discussion. She needed to unite her ideas into actionable steps that could break through the old guard and establish a culture of progress. That required more than the polished presentation she had previously delivered. It demanded strategy and fortitude. The thought urged her to brainstorm actionable initiatives to present at the meeting with Mr. Harrison. After hours of meticulous planning, she proposed a two-pronged approach, initiating smaller pilot programs focusing on feedback loops within teams while also establishing a mentorship system aimed at nurturing leadership qualities across diverse groups. By embracing these dual angles, she hoped to create a ripple effect that could shift the culture organically, sourcing new leaders from the foundation up. When the time arrived for the meeting with Mr. Harrison, she found herself pacing, rehearsing her points silently. As he entered the room, his presence was calm yet commanding. "Maya, I wanted to discuss how you envision the next steps in your proposal," he noted, straightening his tie as he took a seat. Maya took a deep breath, the weight of her thoughts coalescing into a clear narrative. She began to articulate her vision, her voice steadied by the foundation she had built. "Mr. Harrison, I believe we can shift our corporate culture through actionable initiatives like introducing feedback loops and a mentorship program to empower our employees. This will foster not only transparency but also collaboration. Engaging with employees at all levels opens doors to innovation and success." Mr. Harrison nodded attentively, but his expression remained inscrutable. And do you think the current leadership is ready for such a transformative approach? His question hung in the air like a heavy fog, forcing Maya to confront a reality she had dreaded but knew was necessary. Would the leadership, driven by habit and fear, shut her down before she could even begin? She launched bravely into her response. Transformation is uncomfortable, and I recognize that this may be met with resistance. However, as leaders, we owe it to our teams to guide them through discomfort rather than shun it. Facing challenges head-on can redefine our vision for success. It's about progress, not perfection. Mr. Harrison leaned back, considering her words carefully. I admire your passion, Maya. However, we must navigate these changes delicately. It's not just about vision. We need to account for the emotional landscape of our employees and, of course, the executive team. Maya could feel the familiar rumble of doubt within her stirring, threatening to undermine her conviction. Yet, in that moment of vulnerability, she recognized the depth of her resolve. This was not merely about her advancement. It was about paving the way for those who would come after her, the unvoiced potential within the company that needed nurturing. I understand that, and I believe we can create a framework that respects the current structure while slowly introducing these elements. It takes a delicate balance, and I'm ready to collaborate on the specifics. As Mr. Harrison pondered her suggestion, something flickered in his gaze: curiosity, maybe a hint of admiration. But his next words sent a shiver down her spine. Maya, if we move forward with this, you'll be responsible for spearheading it. Are you prepared for that? The weight of responsibility fell heavily on her shoulders, igniting an unexpected surge of empowerment. What he didn't know about her was that this was her battleground. She had been preparing for this moment without even realizing it. As she nodded, determination crystallized in her mind. Absolutely. I'm ready to lead, she replied, her voice unwavering. But as she left the meeting, a sense of urgency crept back in. The challenge of pioneering her vision stretched ahead, amplifying the stakes involved not just for her career, but for the lives of those around her. How would the others respond to her newfound authority? Could she bridge the gap between old traditions and new ideas without fracturing alliances? Maya knew that the answers would unfold in ways she could only begin to envision, but one thing was clear: the moment of truth was approaching, and with it, the potential for both triumph and turmoil lay in wait. Would she stride boldly toward the unknown, or would the fear of failure pull her back into conformity? The choice loomed ahead, and she could feel its weight bearing down on her. Maya stood at the threshold of her office, her breath hitching in anticipation of the whirlwind that awaited her. Everything had changed in just a matter of moments. The conversation with Mr. Harrison had solidified her place not only as a participant in meetings but as a lead driver of transformation within the organization. Tasks loomed large before her, yet they were not insurmountable. Confidence surged in waves. Her resolve felt like armor, shielding her from doubt. Weeks of despair over ignored proposals and unyielding silence propelled her forward now. She meticulously crafted a thoughtful strategy that prioritized open dialogue and embraced vulnerability. The feedback loops and mentorship initiatives were more than ideas. They represented an evolution toward genuine collaborative culture that she believed in deeply. Each detail she planned was infused with intent. This wasn't simply about implementing processes. It was about reimagining their corporate landscape. As Maya moved through the office, she finally saw her colleagues in a new light, not as potential critics, but as allies in a collective journey. She greeted Lisa, who walked alongside her, encouragement reflected in her eyes. You're about to change everything, aren't you? Maya met her gaze, a smile breaking through her nerves. We are, she replied, anchoring herself in the shared vision they had cultivated. The power of their unity blossomed. Collaborating with her teammates transformed the atmosphere in the office. Each meeting shifted from a last-ditch defense against the allegations toward forging a clearer path defined by integrity and accountability. She was no longer alone, locked in a solitary struggle for acknowledgement. Together, they reclaimed their narrative, propelling their stories into the forefront of conversations. Days turned into weeks as small pilot programs started gaining traction. With her oversight, the teams began to visualize strengths they had long overlooked, creating new opportunities for engagement. Feedback sessions fostered an authentic exchange, igniting enthusiasm and driving personal investment in the future of the company. A sense of momentum began forming, a palpable energy that coursed through the office. And then came the annual results meeting. The executives announced the projects that had flourished over the past year. Leaders recognized their proactive efforts. When the time came to present the successes of the mentorship programs, infused with stories of genuine growth, their confidence resonated throughout the room. Maya felt her heart swell. She had accomplished something monumental and meaningful. The moment crystallized clearly as Mr. Harrison turned to her, highlighting her initiative for feedback loops as pivotal to restoring trust within the team. Thanks to Maya's leadership, he declared, we are moving forward with renewed purpose. Recognition flooded her, a mix of joy and disbelief. She had successfully navigated a treacherous landscape filled with whispers of discontent, transforming them into a chorus for change. The validation she had yearned for materialized in front of the executives. Her integrity and steadfastness had paid off. Maya was not the same individual she had been when she first boarded that train. She had embraced uncertainty, challenged authority, and emerged as a catalyst for transformation. No longer suffocated by fear, she stood as a symbol of empowerment, carving out her place amongst her peers without losing sight of her principles. As the meeting adjourned, Maya felt the collective weight of her colleagues' gratitude. They rallied, not just in acknowledgement of her leadership, but in the shared purpose she had ignited. Each connection forged amidst this professional evolution validated her journey, a triumph over previously unchallenged limits. With the newfound respect of her colleagues intertwined with tangible results, Maya realized she had transformed not only the culture within her organization but also her own identity, solidified as a leader in her field. The weight of her past moments of doubt faded into the backdrop of her memory. She had come to understand that true success lies in the ability to foster an environment where every voice is empowered and heard. Eagerly, she took a step forward, embracing the horizon of challenges that lay ahead while carrying with her the lessons learned. Her vision no longer felt like an abstract goal. It was part of a living, breathing reality materializing around her. Now was the moment to act. She felt alive with purpose. As she walked through the offices, exuding confidence, she felt exhilarated. Change was inevitable, and she was ready to lead the way. This was her achievement. Her horizon expanded, all thanks to her unwavering resolve and commitment to authenticity. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It makes a difference and supports more inspiring narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of spreading this message. Don't wait even one more second to share.